A man studying at the University of Kentucky who calls Brussels home is talking about the terrorist attacks there that have left more than a dozen people dead.
A woman is sentenced in Cincinnati for putting Benadryl in her son's feeding tube. A red flag warning in effect for several central and eastern Kentucky counties. We'll have details on that warning ahead.
WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. We continue to track developments in the terrorist attacks today in Brussels, Belgium. Late this afternoon, we learned that a Lexington native is among those missing after the bombings.
Family members confirmed for us that Stephanie Moore Schultz and her husband Justin were at the airport in Brussels when 2 bombs went off. The couple is still unaccounted for. Stephanie's mother, Carolyn Moore, was injured in the blast. Carolyn still lives in Lexington and was about to return home after visiting her daughter and son-in-law. Stephanie Schultz is a Bryan Station High School and Transylvania University graduate. She and her husband both work in Brussels. We'll have much more on the couple coming up on WKYT News at 5.
Now, at least 36 people were killed and hundreds more injured in the twin terrorist attacks in Belgium.
There were 2 blasts at the Brussels airport, and about an hour later, another explosion at a subway station. All flights in and out of the airport have been canceled, and the city itself is in a standstill as authorities told people to stay in place. ISIS has claimed responsibility, saying extremists set off suicide belts in both locations. Hillary Thornton talked to a University of Kentucky student from Brussels whose family lives in the area. She has our top story at 4:30.
He has been studying here at the University of Kentucky for about 6 months now, and this morning when he learned of deadly terrorist attacks in the place he calls home, he says he was very disturbed but not necessarily surprised.
Belgians themselves, they braced themselves a little bit. They probably saw this coming because in like this last 6 months, they rolled up two terrorist cells already, one of them connected with Paris attacks. So I think a lot of people thought it was bound to happen sooner or later.
Mark Warmos is working on his postdoctorate studies at the Markey Cancer Center. While going on with that work at UK today, he has been glued to coverage coming out of Brussels. The pictures and video difficult for anyone to watch, especially for Belgians like Warmos.
Senseless violence, and I also feel for the Muslim community because this is only a small fraction of that really destroy it for the rest of the Muslims, and yeah, it shouldn't happen. Yeah, it's sad.
He's not been able to get in contact with his family yet, but does believe they are okay because he says they live about 70 miles away from where these terrorist attacks happened. In Lexington, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Warmos says he plans to visit his family in Belgium this summer. The terror attacks in Brussels have U.S. officials on high alert.
Security has been increased at American transit centers, especially at airports, subway systems, and train stations. Craig Boswell is at Washington, D.C.'s Union Station with more.
Police cars patrol the outside, while inside there are officers carrying rifles and bomb-sniffing dogs checking luggage at American airports and train stations.
I do hope that we have security measures here that will prevent similar attacks.
Authorities say they have no evidence of a planned strike like the one in Brussels, but they are worried about copycats. Because of that, the FBI has also increased its surveillance of known terror suspects already living in the U.S.
The most important part of a terrorist investigation is to prevent the act before it happens.
The stepped-up patrols at places including Union Station here in Washington happened almost automatically because authorities say they repeatedly train for terror threats.
What happened in Brussels is an example of one of the many threats that face Washington and other regions around the country and the kinds of threats that we're prepared for.
Dave Snyder helps coordinate emergency preparedness in the nation's capital.
The public can play a critical role here. If you see something, say something.
But even with increased patrols, the U.S. has not raised the terror alert level due to the lack of a credible threat. Craig Boswell, CBS News, Washington.
ISIS issued a statement after the Brussels attack claiming credit for the bombings and said there would be more dark days ahead for the West. We will continue to track this story online. You can visit WKYT.com for the latest headlines. Weather here in Kentucky, spring feels like it's back. Temperatures getting into the mid-60s with sun out there.
It's a nice afternoon, but how long will it last? Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey. Chris, quite a bit warmer than yesterday.
Yeah, we're roughly 10-15 degrees warmer than at this same point yesterday afternoon into much of the area. You mentioned that glorious sunshine that is out there, too. Unlike yesterday, today's sun actually filling the part of being a little warmer, helping a lot of those buds. WKYT Weather Garden in the backyard. You notice a couple of things. Yeah, we're seeing the buds, we're seeing the green, but look how windy it is. You can actually see that with the trees that are swaying in the background. We've had those gusts today greater than 30 miles per hour at times. Defender radar network, forget about it. Nothing showing up across Kentucky except the sun and the mild temperatures. Everybody right now into the mid-60s, a couple of pockets of some upper 60s showing up to our west and across far eastern Kentucky as well. Let's take you through the evening. Hit the fast forward button. 7 o'clock, most areas still low 60s. Shortly after sunset, we'll drop it into the low 50s, and tonight's drop nowhere near as cold as what we were talking about this morning and certainly yesterday when we hit some mid-20s out there. Tomorrow morning, many of us will wake up to thermometer readings into the 40s. That bodes well for another mild day. After that, can't make any promises. We'll track a cold front into the Bluegrass State on Thursday, and I'll show you why the potential is there, guys, for a couple of strong thunderstorms. That's in less than 10.
The New York mother who injected Benadryl into her 6 sons' feeding tube has been ordered to stay away from him. Jessica Valak pleaded guilty to misdemeanor child endangerment earlier this month. Cincinnati Children's Hospital was treating her 4-year-old son for a rare skin disease when she injected the allergy medicine into his tube. The disease makes his skin fragile, and his body's reaction to the medication caused him a lot of pain. In exchange for the guilty plea, prosecutors dropped more serious felony charges. A judge sentenced Valak to 180 days in jail. She's already served most of them, so she'll be released in 7 days. But the judge also said she cannot visit her son and has to stay away from the Children's Hospital. They're being called the lockout bandits. 2 would-be armed robbers have now been locked out twice by clerks at gas stations in northern Kentucky.
Julie O'Neill talked with a clerk who took them on and kept them out.
They have the disguises, they have the gun, but these 2 would-be armed robbers don't have a key to get in. The clerk, Dwayne Nickel, was one step ahead of them.
I came out the door and I got about right here, and I heard somebody talking right over on the corner there. And I just took the garbage can or the garbage and just put it on that corner over there, and then I went back inside the house, the shop, locked my door and went back up to the cash register to do my work. And by that time, here they came.
Nichols says the 2 took off running when they couldn't get in, much like these 2 men did when they couldn't get into the marathon 10 miles down the interstate in Corinth last month. Same deal. The clerk locked them out. The circumstances so similar down to the clothing. Williamstown police officer Ron Perkins is calling these guys the lockout bandits.
I mean, the way they hit the place and everything are very, very pretty much, if not the same.
He pokes a little fun, but takes this seriously, asking people to share these pictures online to help find them. You're looking at him eyeball to eyeball. What was that like?
It was scary because he had a gun.
Marathon co-worker Becky Hammonds knows the feeling.
It has actually happened to me. I have been robbed at gunpoint, and so it's very scary.
Hammonds urging all her co-workers now to do what seems to be working.
If you feel uncomfortable, lock that door. Everybody's like a team, and so if something happened to one of our co-workers, it would be devastating.
Tough situation there. Well, pictures of the suspects are up on Facebook pages of both the Williamstown Police and the Grant County Sheriff's Office.
If you were planning to do any kind of burning today, you might want to make sure you're not under a red flag warning. Several central and eastern Kentucky counties have issued the warning. Firefighters say even something as small as a cigarette butt can spark up a large fire on a day like today. In Montgomery County, firefighters tell us they've seen several small grass fires so far this season, but on a day with a red flag warning, fires can quickly burn out of control.
There are a lot of grassy areas, there are a lot of trees. Once you get in the eastern boundaries of our community, these small fires can get into those areas, and then we have some big issues.
While Wells says burning is prohibited by anyone on a red flag warning day, he says any other day, check with your local fire department to apply for a burn permit for 24 hours. We'll have more on this story on WKYT News at 5:30.
21 tons of sand in downtown Lexington, soon to be transformed into a work of art. Damon Farmer is a Grandmaster sand champion. Starting tomorrow through Saturday, the world-renowned sand sculpture from Versailles will start turning Triangle Park in his own sand studio. Lexington leaders selected Farmer to sculpt the sand art. We don't know exactly what he'll create, but he says it will have a bluegrass theme. You'll hear from Farmer ahead on WKYT News at 6. 5 new cheetah cubs are settling in at the Cincinnati Zoo after being delivered via a rare C-section.
Once the births were deemed high risk, veterinarians had to step in to perform the emergency procedure to protect the premature cubs and the mom. The 3 boys and 2 girl cubs are getting round-the-clock care and bottle feeding, and so far everyone is doing well. So cute.
One day they grow up, though. But
yes.
They're awfully cute when they're little.
Cute for now.
All right, what'd you think of the weather today? Really pretty nice out there.
It is, Chris Bailey. It's pretty windy, though.
Yeah, kind of a cute-looking weather day out there, too. A little later on this week, not so cute as we get some showers and thunderstorms into town. Not a bad thing. We could use some drops out there, but boy, this is awfully nice, isn't it? Live look at our sky cams from across the region, and we are showing now temperatures inching up just a little bit. 68 Corbin and Jackson. Look at the Lexington area, Frankfort, both at 66 degrees, sunshine, a little bit of high cloud cover that is out there. Certainly nothing that will be producing any kind of precipitation. Overall, great looking evening. Those winds, the only drawback, we're going to continue to have winds gusting greater than 30 miles per hour as the evening wears on. I'll come back a little later and focus on the potential for some of those thunderstorms that will blossom by the time we go into Thursday. Right now, let's get a check on traffic, see how things are moving along with Officer Don.
Yeah, we're going to skip Officer
That's
Don.
right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
a painting pooch and an internet teaches a lesson. It's the video that will have you talking. Take a look at this.
Okay, one dog is channeling his inner Picasso, and collectors are paying hundreds for his work. Dagger, a 3-year-old lab golden mix, is a Long Island service dog dropout who has taken up painting. The dog selects his colors from a palette of non-toxic paints, and with a paintbrush attached to his paper towel, every stroke and dab is Dagger's. The money he fetches for his paintings goes to the Canine Companions for Independence, where Dagger came from. And look, he has a little jaunty little hat there.
Well, here's what happens when you leave something up to the internet. The public has been asked to help a research team name its new vessel, a $288 million ship that's been a year in the making. If the internet has its way, it will be called Bodie McBoatface. That's the current frontrunner in the naming contest. Other suggestions are the RRS, it's bloody cold here, and Usain Boat. The research group is learning the hard way that when you ask the internet for something serious, you will also get a lot of snarky responses in return.
Sounds like some 5-year-old would come up. Bodie
Yes,
McBoatface. Yeah, you can see a little kid saying that. All right, a lot going on obviously right now around the world and here in Kentucky. Much more to come on WKYT at 5.